Hello my dear friends, this is Grace and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to share with you the cards that I have created with my homemade card kit. If you have not seen the card kit, it's going to be in the description below. So the first card is the one that you're seeing here that I'm making. And I just wanted to kind of get my feet wet with this first card, so it's very simple, not a lot of techniques going on with this. I decided to use a lot of the papers, and this was actually based off of a sketch that I saw on Pinterest, and so I just thought, oh, it'd be nice, to do those block design. So I'm just cutting up my paper. So one is larger than the other. And then the center dot one was actually cut with a stitched rectangle die from Memory Box. And then I also cut a circle from white cardstock. And the die that I use for that is an Avery L stitched circle die. And then I'm going to use this flower stamp from Hampton Arts. Now, when I was pulling this and I was trying to kind of not season it, but trying to get it prepped for stamping, I accidentally, when I peeled off the backing of it where you can see the design, it flipped over because it got caught on my sleeve or something, and then it got onto the back of the stamps, not directly on the stamp where you stamp with, but on the back side. And so some of that black part, I don't know why, but some of that black part got moved onto the back of the stamp. So if you will notice, some of my stamp have that black spots in it. That's because of that mistake that I did. Now I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers Precision Stamp tool, and that's kind of like the Misty tool, but it was a little bit cheaper, and so that's why I went with that. And I bought that, that was part of my Christmas gift last year. So the thing about the We Are Memory Keepers stamping tool is that it doesn't have the magnets like a Misty. So what I do with that is I just get some washi and then I tape my my paper onto the tool so that it doesn't move. And so with this flower, I stamped it with the right Persimmon distress ink, and then for the outline of it, I used a black hybrid ink from My Favorite Things. And then this one, the sentiment I'm going for with this is wishing you the best day ever. And that's also from that flower stamp from Hampton Arts that I got at Joann's. And then I'm going to stamp that a couple of times onto a strip of purple cardstock, and then I'm going to cut the left side of it into a fishtail and then adhere that to my card. So it's almost done. I just need to ink it up. I decided to ink it up with some Dusty Concord just to kind of give a slight dimension to the edges of the paper. This is a very, well, I don't want to say one dimension card because there is a lot of layers here, but the only thing that I'm going to be adhering with some foam adhesive to raise it up will be the flower accent. So you might be wondering why I use the brayer to kind of roll on top of my precision tool. It's because sometimes I feel like my hand does not really, it's not a really good press. So sometimes I use the brayer for that. And then I decided to add some sequins to this card, and I'm going to put that on the center of the flower and then on three different parts of the flower. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the second card. Now this one took me a long time, and I have to just give you a heads up. Part of the video got corrupted, and so I was not able to save it, and so part of it you won't be able to see. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some mask with my flowers here because I wanted to create kind of a bouquet of flowers in the center of my card. And so for me to be able to overlap some of these flowers, I needed a mask. So I just grabbed some Post-it, and then I'm just going to stamp the outline, or I should say the shape of the flower, and I'm just stamping all three different sizes of it. And I actually stamped it, I pulled out maybe a couple of those, no, I think I just did one of the Post-it, and then I will copy one of the shapes so that I can have two masks for the biggest shaped flower. So I'm going to start with some ripe persimmon, and then stamping that. The beautiful thing about these precision tools or these stamping tools is that you can stamp over and over again to either make your design bolder or the colors bolder, or you can, you know, fix it up because it wasn't stamped properly the first time. So there I am. I'm going to use my one of my masks there, and then I'm going to overlap it, and I believe I'm going to be using the tumbled glass for the blue one. So the tumbled glass is not so, it's not as bold as the right persimmon is, and so I have to stamp that a few times. And I decided that I will do the shape and then the outline as well while I'm at it, so that when I do move on to the next flower, that one that I just finished would be already done. And then I also stamped the bottom one in the Dusty Concord. And then with that one, instead of using black for the outline, I actually used white just because I thought it would stand out a little bit more, but it actually didn't. And then now I also created some leaf mask, and then I'm going to create some mask, or I'm gonna stamp some leaves onto 3 corners of this flower. I really liked how this bouquet looked like. It just took a long time because I felt like I was never done with it. I also added some of the Nouveau crystal or no glitter paste onto the flowers as well, and then I inked up the edges with some more tumbled glass, and then I'm finishing it off with some Nouveau crystal drops in white. I'm doing it for the centers of the flowers as well as 3 positions on the leaf. And then for the sentiment, I die cut the things 3 times onto cardstock, and then adhere that on the bottom. So for this third card, I wanted to play with the Lawn Fawn's Swirly Sentiment stamp set. And so I decided that I was going to use just the one stamp, which is the congratulations, and then I was going to, and my plan was that I was going to stamp that across a panel, and then just over and over again, but with the different ink pads that I have. And so at first I thought, well, maybe I can use some of the other ink pads that I already own. But then I decided I will just stick with the 4 that I have been using for this kit. So I'm not even gonna touch any of those 4 that's on top of the screen. So I did all 4 of them. So I started with Dusty Concord, and then I did Tumbled Glass, I did Bright Persimmon, and then the green one is Crushed Olive. And then for the black one, I went with My Favorite Things black hybrid ink. Now the black one didn't really stand out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink that up with some Versamark, and then just heat emboss it with some clear embossing, just so to give it a little bit raised, and so that it will stand out against the other colors. And this is where I decided that I'm going to do that. So the panel is also cut from a stitched rectangle die, and then it had that space on the top, and so I figured, I thought about what I'm going to put in there, and then I remembered that I pulled out the washi tape that's kind of a rainbow, and that fit because some of the colors in there are on the ink pads that I used as well. And then I'm just wrapping some twine to give it a finishing touch, and then I'm adhering this brown kind of wood grain paper, and I also added some sequence. I hope that this is not going too fast for you. If it is, let me know, and then I'll make sure that next time I don't do it this fast, because I know that this is already a long video because of it's already 33 minutes. So but let me know if you wanted to slow down a little bit more next time. So with this card, this is my first shaker card of the set, and I've decided that I'm gonna do kind of a window, a circle window in the center. And so I grabbed one of my Averial circle dies, and then I just kind of lightly sketched out a circle in the center, excuse me, so I know where my cut, or the circle that I'm going to cut will be, and so that all of my designs that that's going to go around the circle will be matched with the shape that I wanted it to be. So I'm just stamping up some of the flowers and the vines from that flower stamp set onto my card base. And the card base is also another rectangle stitched die from Memory Box. I just like the stitched effect on the edges of the paper. It just gives that finished look. So once I'm happy with the design of my, I guess you can call it wreath, I cut out the circle on the inside, but then I felt like there was missing. It didn't look finished, and so I had kind of run my Sharpie around that shape so that it will create the edge. And then I'm just putting some foam adhesive outside, outside of the circle on the back side of the paper, and that's where my sequence is going to go. I also added a transparency onto that piece of paper so that my sequence won't come out. And then I forgot that I needed to add some sentiment. And so here I am. Now, granted, my paper already has adhesive in it, or yeah, foam adhesive. So it's a little bit bulky, but with my precision tool, it worked out fine. And I'm sorry, I'm out of frame here, but I'm just stamping with some black MFT hybrid ink with the sentiment, "Happy birthday to you." So now that that's good, and then I also backed up the paper with this kind of honeycomb yellow pattern paper from the Doodlebug 6x6 paper pad. So I'm putting my sequence on the center because I know that that's where my the opening is going to be, and then I'm just going to adhere my panel, and then it's good to go. And here are some, oh, before I show you the close-up, I forgot. I added some stickles to the centers of some of the flowers that you can see on the outside, I guess you can say wreath. And then I also added in 2 other parts of the card. Okay, now we're going to go on to, I believe, my 5th card. And I have to say, this is my favorite one because it has a good combination of pattern paper and some stamping technique. So I'm starting off with a piece of vellum. I believe this one's about 2 inches. And then I am stamping the outline of the biggest flower with some Versamark ink. I'm doing that because I'm going to heat emboss the flower design with some copper embossing powder. So one of my goals for this making these 10 cards with one kit is, of course, to use up some of the stash that I have, but also to play, because with my scrapbooking I do get to play with some techniques, but that's not the forefront of my layout process. And so for me to make cards and just play with techniques, and it's really fun. And I didn't have a lot of kind of plan going into this. I did pull out, you know, the papers that will match. I did kind of look at what sketches would work, but for the most part, I just kind of went with it, and I really love how it turned out. So with this card, I am going with a 4.5 by 5. Well, all of them are A2 size cards, but this one is horizontal design. And so I added those 3 pattern papers and cut the right sides of them into a fishtail, and then I'm going to add this vellum, which just gives that really subtle design over those papers. And I made sure that I adhered it with some mini glue dot, but I put the glue dots on the centers of the flowers so you won't see them through the vellum. And then I cut my sentiment using the My Favorite Things Thanks die, and I cut that out 3 times so that my sentiment will be raised. And then I'm just adhering them all on top of each other, and then I'm going to be adhering that to the card and then doing some finishing touches after that. I'm going to grab my sequence here, and then I'm going to be putting some sequence on the centers of the heat embossed flowers. Simple but elegant. Now let's go on to the 6th card, and this one's another shaker card. So I'm starting off with actually the background because it's a see-through card, or you know, the shaker has to have something on the back of it, I decided that I'm going to design another bouquet of flowers on the back. So I'm starting off with just some white cardstock, and then I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the second layout, second card, which is to overlap using my mask and then create a bouquet. So I'm using some crushed olive here. The first one was made with ripe persimmon, and then I'm going to use all four of them here, which worked out really well because they look pretty together. And then this one is the dusty concord, and then I'm going to finish off my batch of flowers here with a smaller flower using tumbled glass. Again, I'm also using some of the leaf stamps, but instead of doing the solid and also the outline, I'm just going to do the outline, and I'm going to use some more crushed olive with it. So if this is your first time being in my channel, I hope that you guys have been enjoying this process video, and if you want to check out what else I have in this, just make sure that you check or click on my picture, or if you like this, hit the subscribe button. So I'm almost done here. I just need to finish it off with some flowers, and then gotta make sure I remember to do my masking. And so as you can see, this mask I used the same one for all 10 cards, which is really makes the process efficient for me, because I didn't have to make the mask every time I had to create another card. And then I found the center in the stamp set, and I'm just going to be adding that in the centers of the card, or of the flowers rather. So now I'm ready to build my shaker card. So I cut this panel with two um, stitched rectangle die from Memory Box. I made sure that I chose the ones that are next to each other in size. And then I'm adding, so that was the base of my shaker card, or shaker frame, I should say. And then I also die cut this hello from the My Favorite Things die set. So I have my transparency on top of my frame, and then, or under the, right under the frame, and then I added some foam adhesive to that, and then I put my sequins in the center of that floral bouquet that I created with some stamps. And I'm just cleaning off my transparency because it seemed like it had some dust. And then I'm going to adhere that to some beige cardstock. By the way, all of the cardstocks that I pulled, I created my card bases with them, so they were all used up. And they were from the 8.5 by 11 papers that I picked for this particular homemade kit. And then I'm just pulling out some tiny alphabet stickers. These are old. These are from my little shoebox. And I'm just going to spell out friend. I thought that the hello kind of needed something to balance that out, because it was kind of geared on the left side of the frame, and so it needed something there. Then I'm just adding some Nouveau Crystal drops on the four corners of the frame. And there is my card. Next, we are going to go on to another horizontal design card. And this one, what I did before I turned on the video was that I stamped some flowers onto this white cardstock. And I I heat embossed the flowers with some white heat embossing powder. And then now I'm going to use my Distress inks as a watercolor. And I'm just just adding the colors onto the flower like what you would do with a watercolor. And so again, I'm going to use all four colors here, which is the crushed olive, ripe persimmon, tumbled glass, and dusty concord. And then some of them were like, they're really nice and bright the first time you add them, but some, especially the tumbled glass, because it's so light, that I had to put it on a few times. And I'm actually using a mat here. This is not one of those Ranger mats. This is actually just the mat that you put underneath your oven, because that's what I have, and I've never actually used it in my oven, so I figured I can use that for my crafting, and that's the mat that I was using there, so that I can smush the ink pad over that mat and not make a mess on my table. I decided to back up or to start with the foundation of the striped pink paper against the green cardstock base, and then I also die cut this label. The label die is from it's a Nestabilities from Spellbinders, and that's gonna be the one that will house my sentiment, and it says wishing you a day filled with happiness. And I accidentally, like, I stamped it once and it wasn't really clear, and then, you know, because I wasn't using my precision tool, so it kind of has a little bit of a shadow, but I guess if you look at it clearly or closely, then you will see it. But I don't really. It doesn't really bother me too much. So I felt like something was missing, and I have that checkered green panel from the previous card that was laying just on the top of my table, and so I thought, okay, I'll just use that to add some more layers, and it worked perfectly because it added a frame to my sentiment and also the flowers. So the flowers I'm going to add, I hand cut them, and then I'm going to add them to the top and the bottom of the sentiment, and then I'm going to finish it off with, I decided that I will try some of these sequins, but they didn't have, it was too transparent, and so it will show the adhesive if I add it to the center of the card, and so I went with a different element to be my centers, and you're going to see me here pull out my sequins and also my enamel dots pack there, and I decided to go with these pearls, green pearls, as the centers of my flowers. Okay, so this is my 8th card, and is it okay to say that this is the card that I dislike the most? I can say that because this is my cards, right? But anyways, I wanted, like I said, I just wanted to play, and I've seen a lot of people do the smushing technique with distress inks, and so I thought I'd give it a go. The problem was I wasn't really intentional on where it was going. So, okay, so this purple, you see that? It was smushing everywhere, and it turned brown because it was so close to the right persimmon. And so, of course, that didn't make me happy, but I thought, you know what, just move on. And so I decided I'll do some splatters to make it really messy, artistic style. And so I put some more ripe persimmon on just plastic packaging, and then I added some water in there, and then used my brush to kind of flick it off onto the paper. And then I cut out a panel, a rectangle panel, and then I decided that I would do the swirly sentiments and kind of do them kind of a ladder style, you know, a step style where they're staggered on top of each other, but not necessarily right on top of the other. Um, and so I was doing that first, and then it actually didn't work out at the end, and you will see me later kind of fixing my mistake here. But the good thing about this, the precision tool, is that you can stamp it over and over again if it doesn't work out. I think the problem with this, I was using vellum, and it was really a slick surface for the idea that I was going for, and I didn't give it enough time to dry. And so that's, I think, where my mistake, the first mistake, was where I had my first mistake here. And so I decided that I would ink up this bottom one with the Dusty Concord to make it stand out against all of the black that I've been doing. And so I stamped it a few times, and it turned out really good. It had a crisp image on there, and so I cleaned up my work surface and went and started putting my card together. So the card base is going to be a pink cardstock. And then because there was some space on the top and the bottom of that vellum panel, I decided I was going to add some of that washi. And it was too wide for the space, and so I decided to rip some of that because it is a very kind of artistic style design. So I figured, you know, the ripping part will work well with this card. But like I said, I didn't let it dry. And so the distress ink that I used smeared onto my card when I was doing all these things, and I'm gonna notice it. I'm gonna notice it after I actually adhere the panel onto the card, right? So it's like one mistake after another. But see, I've realized that, but I'm just going to move forward because I've done a lot of work on this card already. So what I'm going to do to kind of fix that up is I'm going to stamp the sentiment again on just white scrap of paper, and then I'm going to adhere that over my mistake, over my boo-boo, and then I'm going to adhere it with some foam adhesive just to make it stand out, and so nobody will know that I have smeared it. Well, I guess all of you guys will know, but that's just our little secret. And then I actually cut the edges of it into a slant to give it a little bit more design, and I also finished it off with some sequins. Okay, almost there, guys. Thank you so much for staying with me this whole time. Okay, this is my ninth card. There was a lot of layering with this card, layering with papers and then layering with stamps as well. I'm starting off with this orange paper, and I cut that about a 1/4 inch smaller than the card base. It is a white card base and it's an A2 size. And then I did a lot of pre-die cutting of circles and stitch rectangle for this one. I also stamped the solid and the outline of the leaves on just white paper, cut it out, and then I decided, oh, I need to add some glitter to this. And so I added some glitter to it and then set it aside to dry. So I have 4 ready-made leaf embellishments to go with this card. So just like with any of the other flowers that I've created, I'm going to stamp it first with the solid stamp and then go with the outline later on. So I'm going to be using, I used the right persimmon first for that first circle, and then I'm going to use the tumbled glass for this blue one. And then I'm going to do the smallest one with the dusty concord. And again, I love the easiness, or yeah, how with the use of the precision tool, how easy it is to be able to stamp an image 3 or 4 times to get the color or the image, the solid image that I want from it. So I decided to do the outlines now, and I am going back and doing the centers. So my circle accents are done, and then all I need to do is adhere this. Oh, but before that, I need to be able to create my sentiment, and the sentiment for this will be get well soon, and it's going to be heat embossed onto this vellum panel with the same embossing powder that I used for the vellum flowers on, I think it's card number 5. So I'm using some powder pouch, I guess that's what it's called, so that the embossing powder will just stick to the places that I have used my Versamark on. But even that, I have some strays, and so I just used my finger to get it out. So now that that's heat embossed, I can start putting together my card. So I cut out this purple panel about 3/4 of an inch, and that's going to go on the side. And then I adhered, so I used my ATG gun on the vellum, and that's okay with me, even though you can see the adhesive a little bit right now. And I didn't mind that because I knew that I was going to cover most of that part with my elements, with my circle accents and whatnot. So I'm just adhering my leaves right now. I'm tucking them over, just slightly over each other, and then I'm going to add the ones on the top. I had to move my smaller flower so that I can put my 2 leaves on the top, and then I want to finish it off with some more Nouveau crystal drops, the white one, and that's my 9th card. Now on to the 10th. Okay, like I said, I just wanted to experiment and play with this card, with these cards, I mean. And so this last one would be my attempt, and I say that very loosely, but attempt in coloring, using markers to color. I'm not very good with the blending and doing all that Copic marker. Well, first of all, I don't have Copics. Okay, let me go back to the card first. I stamped those 3 cards, but when I restamped the third one, it didn't work out really well. So what I did was I just turned over the card and used the backside and started all over again. So going back to the marker thing, I don't have Copics. I do have a few other brands, but I've never really been good at the blending, and so I was trying to attempt it here because I saw on a YouTube video that those Faber-Castell pit markers can be used or can be kind of blended over each other just using your hand to kind of swipe the colors onto the image. And so I was trying to do that, but it wasn't really working out, so I just decided, okay, they're just going to be solid colored flowers, and I'm totally fine with that. I think I actually love the bold look of it. See here, I'm trying to smear it because that's what I saw what one lady did, and it didn't work out for me. So I figured, you know what, I'm just going to color it all in with one color and it's good to go. So I'm sorry, but I don't have the colors right in front of me, so I can't tell you what colors they are. But this one's a pink one, and then I'm using kind of an orange tone here. I also have a red one, a kind of a mustard yellow, and then blues and greens. So I kind of skipped all those colorings because you know what a coloring look like. And then I'm going to be adding this sentiment thanks, which I cut from a checkered green paper, and I cut that 3 times so it will have some dimension. But then I also added some Nuvo glitter paste on top of that to add a little bit more shine. Now I wanted that to stand out against the very bold background, and so to be able to do that, I added just a piece of vellum on top of the bouquet before I add my sentiments so that it will stand out against that really pretty but very bold background. And then I'm just putting a stamp block in there so that it will adhere. And then I decided to grab my pink Nuvo crystal drops and then add that to the 3 different parts of my card. So here is a look of all 10 cards that I've created, and some of them are simple, some of them took a little bit more time, but I gotta tell you, despite number 8 card being not my favorite, I am glad that I took the chance and to just play with these cards, and it helped me to kind of refine the techniques that I've been seeing everybody use. And also I was able to create 10 cards out of it, 10 cards that I can use to share with friends and family. And I'm showing you all the things that are left in my kit here. I am using this kind of metal bin that I think it's used for utensils, but I'm using it to hold my card kit. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, just leave it in the comment section below. Bye, guys.